This happened a few weeks ago. I'm 34 and I've been driving trucks for years to support my family. It was a quiet night on Highway 12, the road stretching endlessly under a blanket of stars. I thought I was used to the silence, but something felt off that night. It was like the quiet had a weight and I could feel it pressing down on me. As I drove, a flicker of movement caught my eye. I thought I saw a figure by the roadside. My heart raced. I slowed down, thinking it might be a hitchhiker. But as I got closer, the figure disappeared right before my headlights, gone like it was never there. I shook my head, telling myself it was just my imagination. The next week, I was back, and all I could think about was that figure. As I drove, I started to hear something strange on the radio. It was static, but I could almost make out voices. I flipped through the channels, but it didn't change. Just that same low, crackling sound that felt personal, like it was whispering my name. Was I just tired? I couldn't tell. Another night, I spotted something dart across my windshield. My skin crawled. I thought it was an animal, but the road was too empty for that. It didn't make sense. I was getting jumpy. Each encounter was creeping up on me, gnawing at my sanity. I felt like something was watching me from the dark. Then one night, driving that same stretch, I saw him again, a man standing by the road. My blood ran cold. I pulled over, rolled down the window, and asked if he needed help. He didn't respond, just stood there, staring at me. I felt uneasy and glanced away for just a second. When I looked back, he was gone. My instincts told me to leave, but I couldn't move. I turned on the radio, wanting the noise to drown out my fear. The static only grew louder, and the whispering was more urgent. I noticed something else. Eyes. They were peering from the shadows along the road. My heart was racing. I wanted to drive away, but something held me in place. A few days later, I found myself on that road once more. The weight of each mile felt heavier, like it was pressing down on my chest. Everything I'd seen replayed in my mind. I swore I saw that man again, standing just like before, but now something felt different. I stopped, trying to catch my breath. I opened the window and shouted, "Are you okay?" But all I got was silence. I glanced around, trying to convince myself I was dreaming. That's when he finally turned his head. He looked right at me. My breath caught in my throat. Then he asked, "Why are you here?" I froze, staring at him. I turned to look behind me, hoping to find something that explained all of this. But there was nothing, just an empty stretch of highway. When I looked back, he was gone, and the whispering grew even louder in the static. I didn't know what to make of it. My heart pounded in my chest as I drove. I kept replaying that moment in my head. Why had he asked me that? I had been on this road so many times before. What was I doing? My nerves were shot, and I realized I couldn't keep driving like this. I pulled into a small diner just off the highway. A flickering neon sign buzzed overhead, casting a dull light on the cracked pavement. My hands gripped the steering wheel, and I took a deep breath. Maybe talking to someone would help. I needed a distraction. The bell above the door chimed as I entered. A few customers sat at the counter, their faces illuminated by the dim overhead lights. I nodded at the waitress, who gave me a wary smile. I chose a booth in the corner, away from the windows. As I sipped my coffee, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was still being watched. My eyes darted to the windows, half expecting to see that man standing outside. I leaned back, trying to appear casual, but every tick of the clock felt like a countdown. Then I overheard a couple at the counter whispering about something strange. "You believe in ghosts?" the woman asked. The man scoffed, and she continued, "I swear I saw a figure on the road last week. No one else was around." My heart raced. Was it just a coincidence? I leaned closer to listen. "Could it be the spirits of those who died on the highway?" she asked, and my gut twisted. "You know there's a legend. They say that at midnight you can see them." I wanted to dismiss it, but the thought chilled me. I glanced at my watch. It was close to midnight. The diner felt smaller, the shadows creeping in. I decided to pay my bill and get back on the road. I couldn't let my imagination get the best of me. But as I walked toward the door, I caught sight of something outside. Through the glass, a figure stood at the edge of the parking lot, almost obscured by darkness. My heart raced as I took a step closer. It was him, the man from the highway. This time I could see his features clearer. His face was pale, his expression unreadable. "Why are you here?" His voice echoed in my mind, just like before. Panic surged through me. Before I even thought, I bolted out the door, but when I reached the parking lot, he was gone. I spun around, searching the shadows. That unshakable whisper returned, louder than before, filling my head with noise. "You shouldn't be here." I jumped back, looking for anyone to explain what was going on. The diner was still behind me, but the voices were pulling at my mind. Gripping my phone, I knew I had to leave. As I sprinted to my truck, I felt a chill prick at my neck. That's when I saw it. A shadow darted across the gravel, moving too fast for a person. I squinted, trying to understand what I was looking at. It stopped just at the tree line, a dark silhouette looming in the night. Something told me that whatever it was didn't want me to leave. Fear coursed through me as I fumbled for my keys. The weight of the night began to close in, and I knew I was about to find out just how deep this mystery went. I fumbled with my keys, my heart racing. I couldn't shake the feeling that the shadow was watching me. Just as I managed to unlock the door, I heard a rustle nearby. Panic flared in me, and I whipped around, but there was nothing. The tree line stood still and ominous. Keeping my eyes locked on the dark shapes, I climbed into my truck, slamming the door shut behind me. I turned the ignition, praying my engine wouldn't stall. The engine roared to life, a thunderous sound amidst the silence of the night. I backed out slowly, conscious of the shadow's lingering presence. As I drove away, I glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see someone standing there. Instead, all I saw was the empty parking lot. But deep down, I sensed that whatever it was hadn't gone far. I needed answers. Maybe I could find someone who knew about this highway, someone who could help make sense of it all. I pressed my foot down harder on the gas. The highway stretched before me, illuminated by the headlights. I scanned the roadside for any sign of life, anything that might offer clarity. A few miles down the road, I spotted a truck stop. The neon lights flickered like a beacon, drawing me in despite my apprehension. I parked, needing to talk to someone. Inside, the place was surprisingly busy. A group of truckers sat at a table exchanging stories. I felt out of place, but pushed through the moment's anxiety. Approaching the counter, I caught the eye of a burly man in a flannel shirt. "You been driving this road long?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. "Long enough to know what goes on out here at night." He leaned in, surprisingly serious. "You see anything strange?" I hesitated, searching for the right words. I felt like I was being followed, and I saw a figure by the trees. The burly man's expression shifted to one of concern. "That's the highway for you. You ain't the first to see things that aren't there." He took a sip of his coffee, studying me. "You heard of the ghost stories?" I nodded, recalling the couple from the diner. "Do you really believe in that stuff?" He sat back, crossing his arms. "Believe it or not, something happened
out here years ago. A truck flipped over on that stretch, killing the driver. Folks say he never left." His voice lowered. "At midnight, he looks for someone to take his place." The words sunk in, chilling me to the bone. Suddenly, I felt a pressure in the air, as if something was shifting around me. I glanced at the clock on the wall. It was almost midnight. I needed to get back on the road, but my legs felt heavy. The trucker continued, "You should turn back, head to town. This ain't the road to be on right now." But I couldn't shake the feeling this was more than just stories. I was caught in a web of mystery, an enigma I couldn't ignore. I thanked him and returned to my truck, heart pounding. As I drove away from the stop, the shadows thickened again. I felt the presence pulling at me, a whisper of urgency, while the tension built like a bowstring ready to snap. Just as I was about to let myself have another breath of relief, The headlights illuminated something ahead, another figure standing in the middle of the road. This time, there was no confusion. I slammed on the brakes and skidded to a stop, and my blood ran cold as I recognized him, the man from before. But this time, I could see the faint glow surrounding him, like a gossamer veil. Suddenly, everything went dark. I opened my eyes and found myself sitting in the truck, still parked on the side of the highway. My heart raced, but the man was gone. The air felt charged, electric, as if something monumental had just happened. I shook my head, trying to clear the fog and refocus. "I need to get out of here," I muttered, gripping the steering wheel as I scanned the darkness around me. The trees loomed menacingly, whispering in the night breeze, but I couldn't shake the need to know more. I'd turned my back on it once. I wouldn't do that again. Turning the key in the ignition, I felt the engine roar back to life. I forced myself to drive forward, teeth gritted against the anxious thumping of my heart. Every shadow beside the road made me jump. Every stumble in the tires on the gravel felt ominous. I was hyper-aware of my surroundings, alive in ways I hadn't felt in a while. The highway stretched out ahead, desolate and uninviting. I drove a few miles until I spotted a faint glow to my right, a forgotten pull-off with overgrown bushes. A weathered sign read "Rest Area." I pulled in, hoping to shake off the dread settling in my chest. When I stepped out of the truck, a chill ran through me. The area was deserted. A single flickering lamp cast eerie shadows along the cracked concrete. I made my way to the restroom, and as I approached the building, the door swung open. A woman stepped out, her face pale
and eyes wide. She looked right at me, her expression a mix of fear and urgency. "Did you see him?" she asked, her voice shaky. "Who?" I replied, feeling the knot in my stomach tighten again. "The ghost. He's here." She seemed frantic, glancing around as if the figures could appear at any moment. "I saw him back there, standing by the trees." I swallowed hard. "You mean the truck driver?" Her eyes widened further, and I could see she was struggling to maintain composure. "Yes, I was driving, and I thought I hit something. I stopped and saw him there. He looked right at me." My mind raced. Did he say anything?" She shook her head, but took a step closer, lowering her voice. "No, he just stood there. I didn't stay long enough to find out. I've heard the stories too, but I thought they were all just rumors until I saw him." The woman's distress was palpable, and for a moment I felt a bond form between us, a shared fear of the unknown. "What do you think he wants?" I asked, curiosity outweighing my own concern. "I don't know, but they say—" She hesitated, as if the words were too heavy to speak. "They say he wants someone to take his place." Her voice fell to a whisper, shivers running down my spine. The restroom loomed behind her, dark and inviting, and for a moment I thought I glimpsed a flicker of light in the cracked windows. I turned to the woman, ready to voice my next question, but she was gone, vanished as suddenly as she had appeared. I was alone again, heart pounding. I glanced back at the road. The shadows passed under the flickering light. I needed to figure this out before I became another part of the story. Then, in the distance, I heard it, a low, mournful sound, echoing through the night. With every note, my skin prickled. I wasn't just a bystander anymore. I was being called. Instinctively, I started toward the sound, curiosity driving my every step. That's when I felt an icy breeze sweep past me, and I knew I wasn't alone. The sound grew louder as I stepped deeper into the darkness, an unsettling melody that wrapped around me like a shroud. It was almost hypnotic. I hesitated, glancing over my shoulder at the safety of the truck. Should I turn back? But there was an irresistible pull, a need to discover what lay ahead. As I moved closer to the trees, I noticed something glinting among the fallen leaves. I bent down, my heartbeat echoing in my ears, and found a small tarnished locket.
I brushed away the dirt and opened it. Inside, a faded photograph of a man and woman stared back at me. They looked happy. Something about their smiles felt both familiar and alien at the same time. Before I could process this discovery, the mournful sound changed. The notes twisted, becoming more frantic.
Each cry piercing the quiet night. I could feel a rush of cold flood over my skin. My instinct screamed at me to leave, yet my curiosity anchored me to the spot. Then I saw him, the man from before, standing at the edge of the trees, pale and translucent. His expression was one of desperation, as if he was reaching out to me but could not bridge the gap. I took a step back, holding the locket tightly in my palm. "Please, help me," he whispered, his voice like a chilling breeze against my face. I wanted to shout, to run back to the safety of the truck, but I was entranced. "You have to take my place." Panic surged through me. The stories weren't just tales passed around campfires. This was real, and the haunting was happening right in front of me. "What do you mean?" I managed to stammer out. He pointed a finger toward the road, the flickering light from the rest area in the distance illuminating his figure for just a moment. "They will come for you. You must leave before it's too late." His eyes were filled with a sorrow I couldn't ignore. I turned, glancing anxiously at the dark stretch of highway, and there it was again. Another echo of the mournful sound, louder this time, as if it were calling me away from him. Shadows danced in the periphery of my vision, and the air felt thicker than before. Something was approaching, something hungry. My heart raced as I looked back at the man. "What do you want from me?" "Find who I was. Help me remember," he begged, eyes pleading. Suddenly, the trees shuddered and the shadows emerged. Figures darted between the trunks, their forms flickering like candle flames. I felt the cold grip of fear encircle my throat. I turned and ran toward the rest area, desperation fueling my speed. As I sprinted, my thoughts were jumbled. Who was he? Why was he trapped here? But that was the least of my worries. If I didn't get out soon, I might be the one trapped. Just as I reached the flickering light, everything went dark. The world around me vanished, swallowed by the void. I felt a pull deeper into the night, as if the very ground was rejecting me. I stumbled, trying to stay upright as panic set in. I barely managed to shout, "No, let me go!" But it was swallowed by the silence before I hit the ground. And then I heard it again, the mournful sound, now much closer. I knew then that whatever fate awaited me, it had already begun. I jolted upright, gasping for air as if I had resurfaced from under dark waters. The rest area was a blur, illuminated by harsh lights that flickered overhead. My heart hammered beneath my ribs like a trapped animal. Disoriented, I blinked and scanned my surroundings. Nothing made sense. The echoes of the mournful sound still rang in my ears, but they were more distant now, blending into the chorus of crickets and the faint hum of passing cars on the highway. I looked around for any sign of the man I had seen, but there was only the emptiness of the parking lot. The shadows I had fled from seemed to retreat into the dark corners, keeping their secrets hidden. I got to my feet, my legs trembling beneath me. The locket was still clutched tightly in my hand, its cool metal grounding me in reality. But I wasn't sure how much longer I could remain here. Something felt wrong, like the air was thickening with unseen eyes watching me from the darkness. I rushed toward the truck, but before I reached the door, a chill wrapped around my spine. A figure loomed near the edge of the lot, partially hidden by the flickering shadows. My breath caught in my throat as I squinted, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. It was another man, but this one appeared whole, solid. He was tall, dressed in dirty jeans and a tattered jacket. His face was weathered, and he looked lost. "Hey," I called, hoping for any human connection. "Are you okay?" He turned slowly, his eyes wide and glassy. "You shouldn't be here," he rasped, voice cracking like dry leaves. "It's not safe." Panic shot through me again, a warning echoing in my mind of the spectral man's plea. I stammered, unsure how to express the strangeness of the situation. I need help. Something happened back there. The man stepped closer, perceptive and urgent. You saw him, didn't you? His voice was almost frantic, as if the confirmation twisted something painful in him. Saw who? I asked, confusion swirling in my thoughts. The spirit. He's been searching, lost for years. His tone dropped. You've drawn their attention. You're not safe. The air was thickening again, the shadows drifting closer. My instincts kicked in, screaming at me to flee. Who are you? How do you know this? He shook his head, unease flickering across his features. I've seen it before. People like you, lured by the light. He's trying to pull you in. Don't let him. I took a step back, my heart racing. I need to get out of here. I need to leave. No, he shouted back, his voice rising. You have to listen. You can't just run. The darkness will follow you. Just then, the mournful sound returned, louder and more piercing. This time, it didn't feel like music. It felt like a warning, like claws scraping against my resolve. Shadows poured from the trees and swarmed the edges of the lot, growing closer with each breath. Run, the man shouted, desperation lacing his words. Find out who he was. It's the only way to break free. That's when I saw the figures emerge from the trees again, their shapes shifting and contorting, closing in on the parking lot. I didn't need another moment to think. I turned and bolted toward my truck, fear propelling me forward. But as I raced away, the sound morphed into a terrible clarity, a voice breaking through the chaos. You cannot escape. They were right behind me, and from somewhere deep inside, I knew this was just the beginning. I could feel the weight of the night pressing in as I sprinted toward my truck. My heartbeat thudded loudly in my ears, drowning out the world around me. I fumbled with the keys, hands shaking as the cold metal slipped through my fingers. They clattered to the pavement, echoing through the stillness. I couldn't stop to think. I dropped to my knees, grabbing the keys just as shadows flitted closer. They slithered near the edges of the parking lot, their forms flickering like a candle flame in the wind. A cold sweat broke out across my skin. Get in, I urged myself, forcing my fingers to cooperate as I finally managed to unlock the door. I dove into the driver's seat, heart racing as I slammed the door shut. With trembling hands, I twisted the key in the ignition. The engine sputtered, then roared to life as if it understood the urgency. But just as I put it in gear, a loud thud hit the back of the truck. I jolted, fear electrifying my body. I glanced at the rearview mirror, expecting to see something horrible, the things from the shadows, but only darkness stared back, swallowing anything that dared to escape its grasp. I pressed the gas pedal, sending the truck lurching forward. The tires screeched against the pavement before I spotted the figure in the road ahead. It was a man, draped in shadows, just standing there. I blinked, hoping my eyes were deceiving me. Move, I shouted, but the figure remained frozen, his face obscured. My stomach dropped. The sorrowful sound rose again, more resonant now, like a siren calling me back. I swerved, narrowly avoiding him, my heart racing in a chaotic rhythm. The truck rumbled down the highway, leaving the rest area behind. I glanced in the mirror again. The figure was gone, swallowed by the darkness. Yet I could still hear that dreadful melody lingering in the air, following me. What is happening? I muttered to myself, my grip tightening on the steering wheel. I needed answers. I needed to know who that spirit was and why it had drawn me in. Thoughts raced through my mind as I drove. What if the man at the parking lot had been right? What if I had become part of something I couldn't understand? I needed to find someone who could help. That's when my headlights illuminated a sign. Welcome to Black Hollow. A chill ran through me. I had heard whispers about this place, strange occurrences, ghost stories, and odd happenings that made people uneasy. Wasn't it just my luck to drive into the heart of it? Before I could process it, a figure crossed the road. This one was small, almost childlike, with wild hair and a white dress. My heart raced again. Who was this, and why were they out here so late? The child stopped right in front of my truck. I slammed the brakes hard, the tires squealing. I stared in disbelief. The voice rose again in my ear, pleading, "You cannot escape." Just like that, everything darkened. The headlights flickered and died, plunging me into pitch black. The last thing I heard was the whisper of the mournful sound, clearer now, as if beckoning me closer. "You must know." I was trapped with nowhere to run. I jolted awake, my heart racing again, gasping for air. My truck felt heavy, suffocating in the silence that filled the air. I blinked at the darkness, struggling to make sense of what had happened. The engine was still running, but the headlights were dead, leaving me wrapped in a thick shroud of night. "Hello? Is anyone there?" My voice came out shaky, slipping into the stillness. No response, just the distant rustling of leaves, like whispers dancing through the trees. I fumbled for my phone, squinting at the screen when I finally found it, buried beneath the seat. The battery was low, only 20% left. I needed to conserve it. Quickly, I switched on the flashlight, casting a beam out into the dark. The glow trembled over the road, illuminating nothing but asphalt and shadows. I turned around, glancing through the back window, half expecting to see the child again. But there was just more darkness. It felt like a weight, pressing in on all sides. Then I heard it, a faint, familiar tune, echoing in the distance. It wasn't just in my head. My heart sank. Was this like before? Had I been drawn to something again? I knew I had to get out, to leave this place behind. With a deep breath, I yanked the door open and stepped out into the cool night. The air was electric, crackling with tension. My shoes crunched against the gravel, each sound magnified in the silence. Gathering my courage, I walked toward the origin of the melodic sound. It seemed to be coming from deeper into the woods, where shadows twisted into monstrous shapes. As I approached, a figure emerged from the dark, a tall woman dressed in a flowing gown that shimmered like starlight. "Please help me," she whispered, her voice soft yet insistent. Her eyes glimmered with unshed tears. There was something painfully familiar about her. "Who are you?" My voice was barely louder than a whisper. I felt an urge to reach out, but fear anchored me in place. "I'm here to guide you," she said earnestly. "You must understand what binds you to this place." A shiver ran down my spine. Was she part of the same tragedy? Something in her presence felt hauntingly serene, but I couldn't shake the feeling of danger. "Why me? What do you want from me?" "The melody," she replied, and I felt an involuntary need to listen. "It carries the truth of what happened here." But before I could ask more, the haunting child's voice joined the woman's, filling my ears. "You cannot escape." I stumbled back, caught between the two figures. My mind raced. I needed to get back to my truck. It didn't matter how much they called to me. I turned, heart pounding, and rushed back into the safety of the vehicle. But when I looked back, they were gone. The road remained empty, echoing with silence. I quickly jumped into the driver's seat and slammed the door shut, locking it behind me. I had to leave now. Just as I was about to start the engine, something caught my eye. A reflective glint on the passenger seat. I turned, and my breath caught in my throat. A small, ornate box lay there, covered in symbols that felt otherworldly. "What is this?" I whispered, instinctively drawing back. Whatever it was, I knew it wasn't a good sign. My hands trembled as I reached for it, ready to uncover the mystery that had drawn me in deeper than I ever intended.
Then, before I could grasp it, the lights flickered back on, revealing a figure standing at the edge of the woods, watching me with eyes that held the weight of history and despair. I stared at the figure, heart crashing in my chest. The face was hazy, shrouded by the shadows, but it felt like I should know who it was. Panic surged in me. I had to get out. I had to escape whatever this was. But instead of turning the key, I just gripped the steering wheel, paralyzed. Suddenly, the figure stepped forward, moving as if the darkness stretched around her. I blinked, and she seemed so close, too close. Help me. The voice was familiar. It was the voice from my dreams. I swallowed hard. What do you want? Who are you? My questions tumbled out, each one louder than the last, desperation creeping into my tone. A chill swept through the cab. I could feel the air thickening around me, like wrapping paper around a gift, tight and suffocating. You have to remember, she said, her voice echoing in my mind. What did I need to remember? My thoughts raced back to the night before. I had driven down this road, but without the weight of this dread. I shook my head, pushing away the fog that encased my memory. Please, I yelled, losing my composure. The shadows fluttered in the corners of my vision. The woman remained calm. Then, like flicking a light switch, the melody returned, wrapping around me. I needed to focus. My eyes darted around the truck, searching for something, anything to ground me. That's when I noticed the box again. It gleamed, taunting me, as if it held the answers. Your truth lies within, the woman whispered, her hand beckoning toward the ornate box.
I couldn't breathe. For a moment, everything felt too real, too heavy. "No!" I shouted, slamming my palm against the dashboard. "Get away from me!" Suddenly, the woman's expression twisted. Her eyes darkened, and the soft glow faded. "You have to choose," she hissed, the air vibrating with her words. "Choose what?" I shouted back, panic clawing at my throat. "Choose to face it," she screamed, as the wind picked up around my truck, rattling the windows. I could hear the child's voice again, faint but clear. "You cannot escape." A surge of courage overwhelmed me. I leaned forward in my seat, determination igniting my senses. I had to know what was inside the box. I reached forward, fingers trembling as they brushed the cool surface. That was when a terrifying thought struck me. What if this was the key to everything? What if it was also a trap? As the box slid toward me, my heartbeat echoed in my ears. I lifted the lid slowly, the hinges creaking, a sound that felt like a warning. Inside lay objects spilling secrets, a locket, a picture, and something that looked like a piece of cloth, stained and frayed. But before I could take in all the details, everything went dark. The engine sputtered, lights blinked out, and I was consumed in a swirling void. Deep down, I felt it, the melody fading, the figures retreating, but history still clawed at my back, and the darkness held promises of revelations yet to come. I awoke with a start, the familiar thrum of the engine beneath me grounding my senses. The truck was parked on the side of the highway, illuminated by my headlights, casting a dim glow across the deserted stretch of road. Dawn was breaking, the night's terror slipping back into the shadows from which it emerged. I sat there, breathing heavily, struggling to reconcile the vividness of the experiences with the stark reality of my surroundings. The lingering whispers, the ghostly figures, they felt so real, yet here I was, alone in my truck, the locket and the box lost to the void. I glanced around, half expecting the man, or any of them, to appear from the darkness one last time. Nothing. The weight of dread clung to me, the impressions of the past night still vivid in my mind. I had a choice to make,
one that felt monumental under the lightning sky. What had I run from, and what was I still running toward? I turned the engine key, and it roared to life, breaking the last remnants of quiet. I took a deep breath, searching the road ahead. It was time to leave this place behind, but the thought of doing nothing gnawed at me. The truth about that tragic night still eluded me like smoke slipping through my fingers. Without much thought, I pressed the gas, staring back onto the highway. I kept driving, locking eyes with the horizon as I replayed the woman's words in my mind. You have to choose.
To remember. Miles passed, the sun rising higher, shedding light on the misty outlines of the trees standing vigil. Maybe there was something about those stories I needed to understand, something connected to that eerie melody that still hummed in the back of my mind. I wasn't sure how long I drove, but eventually a small sign appeared, beckoning me to a nearby town. Black Hollow. My pulse quickened. This was where I was meant to go. I could feel it, an invisible thread tugging me toward answers. As I entered the town, a quaint facade welcomed me. Charming shops, the smell of breakfast wafting from a small diner that drew me in. I parked, deciding the best way to confront this haunting was to talk to someone who might know. Inside, the diner buzzed with the soft chatter of locals, framed photos on the walls recalling stories untold. I took a seat at the counter and ordered coffee, my gaze wandering to the people around. Soon enough, I found my moment, leaning over to the waitress. "Excuse me, I heard some strange stories about this highway. Do you know anything?" She paused, then looked around as if weighing her words. "You mean about the truck driver? Folks around here talk about him all the time. It's what happened to him that keeps people awake at night." Pulses of dread surged within me. "What do you mean?" "They say he was searching for someone he lost. Some claim if you listen closely, you can hear him calling, trying to find a soul to take his place." My heart sank, memories flooding back of the man lost in the shadows, his voice echoing through the night. I saw him." The waitress's expression shifted, surprise mixing with concern. "You're lucky to be alive then. Lots don't come back." A crowd of whispers surrounded me, drowning out my thoughts. The weight of every story told settled deep inside. I realized that the truth about what happened here wouldn't just float to me. I had to dig deeper. After a long conversation filled with darkness and unexpected ties, I stepped outside, my mind swirling with half-formed questions. The haunted melody still echoed in my mind, intertwining with the certainty that I had to confront this reality. As I walked toward my truck, a chill swept through me, and my heart raced. One thing was clear: I would have to face the truths lurking in the shadows, perhaps even return to that haunted stretch of highway. Would I find answers there, or new mysteries to unravel? Either way, the ominous presence still lingered, whispering from the depths of my memory, beckoning me to listen once more. I wasn't done yet. I knew there was more to discover, and even if fear clung to me, I couldn't turn back now, for the haunting would only grow stronger if I did. I took a deep breath, climbing into my truck, the sun rising behind me, warding off the darkness.
Least for today. I drove away, each mile a step closer to the truth, my heart heavy yet resolute in the quest that lay ahead. Or perhaps the ghost was right. I might never escape, not truly, but I would find that locket again and piece together the memories they were eager to share. And so the highway stretched before me, endless and unknowable, echoing with both promise and dread, as the questions lingered, unresolved yet persistent.